All right, let's make a formal introduction for our listeners. Good afternoon, Caroline. My name is Claudia. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C. From the studios in Fairfax City. We're very humble and grateful that Caroline Lavelle accepted our invitation to our show. Caroline, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Claudia. I'm very happy to be here and to meet you.
Same here. Let's go back to the beginning. Were you born like in a musical family? I mean, how old were you when you perhaps began taking piano lesson or violin lesson or guitar lesson, whatever?
Well, my mother's family was musical in that my grandfather was a conductor, and he conducted at George VI's coronation alongside Elgar. He you know those big long trumpets that have a flag hanging off them that they play when the king or the queen's around. He designed those after being shown the trumpets that came out of Tutankhamun's tomb back in the early 1900s, and so my mother was very musical, although she didn't really play, because I think my grandfather, her father, had terrified her sort of when she was young, and so when I was really little, my brother and sister and I we would sing songs from Disney and all the those wonderful songs from all the shows, the musical shows, and we would sing like 3-part harmonies as a laugh. It was really, we used to play it, doing it. But I started playing the recorder when I was about 6, and I'm really passionate that schools should teach recorder or some form of music. Because it just opens the world. It opens so much up to people. And now in Britain, anyway, it's really, really fading out because there's no money for music for children, and that means that only rich children are gonna play music, not people like me. We didn't have any money, and so I would never have had what's laughingly known as my career. I would never have done what I've done in my life had it not been for the state schooling of music. So I started playing cello when I was 6 or 7, and I was at primary school, and there was a music sort of cupboard with all the instruments in it. So we got told, right, you've got to be there at this time, and then everyone's going to get given a musical instrument. But I got the time wrong. I was late. I'm never late now. Never late. I'm always absolutely on time. Maybe it comes from that, and all that was left, I was right at the end of the queue, and all that was left was a trombone and a cello. So I chose the cello because I wanted to play the fiddle. I wanted to play the violin.
Yeah, wow.
Play the cello. Isn't it funny how on such things your life turns? Incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh. Yeah.
Anyway.
Wow, good for you, man. But at the same time, you have a lot of great singing abilities. You remember the first time your parent heard you singing and saw the talent that you had?
No, because I never sang. And the first time that I sang was when I was with a band called Dannan, and there were at that time there were 2 incredible singers with Dannan, Mary Black and Dolores King, and they're just world-class wonderful singers. And wow. I playing the cello, I really have a love of accompanying singers. I just love that kind of. It's almost like being fishes in a shoal, in the sea.
Yeah.
I love that. And I don't know that I wasn't very good at it then, but I loved it nevertheless. However, but I would listen to them and their phrasing and how they would approach a note. Oh, just beautiful. And that's when I started singing. So I was like in my 20s when I started singing, and and at first, because I used to smoke tons of cigarettes. I don't smoke now, but I used to smoke packets of cigarettes, and so I had no puff at all. I had no breath. And so I used to sing very quietly. And my concert hall, I used to think of it, my concert hall was one person's ear. And I used to sing into people's ears, like, you know, just really quietly. And that was the case for several years, that I would just be like, I would sort of buttonhole people at parties, and I'd sing them a song into their ears, so no one else would hear. And that's how I started singing. Anyway, and then I thought, and I only had a very tiny range, and now I have a huge range. It's sort of like, partly because the longer I stay with Loreena, playing with Loreena McKennitt, the more sort of backing vocals I do with her. And of course, she's got this magnificent voice that's just elastic and electric, and she can sing so high, and so she needs very high backing vocals, and so sometimes she'll want some backing vocals in a particular song, and I'll think, oh my goodness, I'll never get up there, and then I do. Of course you do, and then I extend the range more, so it's really helpful. Terrifying but helpful.
Good for you. Were you in any band when you were the equivalent of high school here in the United States, or when you were 16 to 18, or no?
No, I wish I was. I had it all mapped out. I had the name for the band. It was a very glam rock band.
Yeah.
I had all the image like sorted out. I just didn't have any songs or anybody that wanted to be in the band with me or anything like that. That was the only problem. Everything else was sorted. So we were going to come down on trapezes, because this was going to be on television, on trapezes in silver. We'd be wearing silver boots and silver, and we would come down singing, on trapezes. It would have been marvelous. Unfortunately, never happened. I think people would pay not to see me on a trapeze now.
So you finished high school, and then obviously you knew it was, I suppose, a difficult decision. Let me explain. So you like music. You were applying to go to the Royal College of Music, London, or study a different career, like medicine, engineer, law. Do you have any pressure from your family about, hey, forget about music, you're not going to make any money, that's a hobby, go marry a rich kids, go to London and stay home? Or...
Yeah, my not from my mum. My mother was always very much behind me to do music, but my father was very the other way. My father, he thought I should become a secretary, which that would have been a disaster. My organizational skills are really challenged. But yeah, I remember one time when I was at college, and I was playing a piece by Alexander Cheretlin, who is a Russian composer who had a Chinese wife, Cheretlin, Tcherepnine, and it is a solo suite for cello, and it's really tricky. It's great. Oh, it's just a brilliant piece of music. And I was practicing it at home, back from college. And my dad came in and he said, God, you're never going to ever learn to play that damn thing.
Oh, man.
So there's a busker, but I live in a very touristy, oh my goodness, she's so loud, this busker. She's miles away.
Really?
Yeah, can you hear her?
A little bit. No, it's in the background. Yeah.
She's really loud. She comes every day, and it's really difficult because I'm trying to write music, and I have to shut all my windows and put a white noise machine on so that I can write music. Anyway, so where was I? Yes, my dad. Yeah, he wasn't very impressed that I wanted to become a musician, but my mum was very behind me.
Oh, good for you, man. Look at you now. If you look back in your life, you have played with so great musicians. You play with Loreena, travel around the world, man. Maybe your dad was wrong. Who am I to
Yeah,
decide?
I think he came round to it, actually. I think he came round to it in the end. And I think I remember actually, he did, in Britain, we have this thing called the Open University, which is where people, grown, adults who have not had the chance to go to college, to university, can take a degree in self-study. And so, at home, they can, I'm not quite sure how it works. But anyway, my dad did an Open University degree and got it. Good for him. And one of his modules was something to do with music. And I remember one day he said to me, he says, there's a lot more to it than I thought. And I said, what did you think I've been doing all this time? Just getting back or something.
Absolutely.
He did come around to it.
Good for you. Good for him as well. And so you end up finishing, the Royal College of Music in London, and so you end up, basking a little bit on the city outside the Kensington Tube Station, which I know the area very, very well. So it takes a lot of energy and motivation, and to do it on the street. I mean, sometimes you don't have any money, you need to do it, but
no, it's really. I think it is a really. I'm not joking. It's very, very valuable learning. And,
absolutely,
yeah. It also teaches you a bit about audiences as well, and it really you have to develop a kind of a thick skin, which I don't really have. So for me, it's so hard. I mean, even going on stage, I find quite hard. Actually, I'm happiest writing music. I love writing music, but no, busking is a marvelous education. Terrifying.
And you were in, I think it's called, I don't know how to pronounce, humoresque.
Humoresque was with two friends called Anne Stevenson and Ginny Hughes at the time. She married she became Ginny Ball with one of the guys from Soft Cell, the band Soft Cell. Anyway, we kind of had fun, and it was brilliant, playing really fast and really furiously. It was good. A good time.
Were you guys making any money enough to survive?
Yeah, we did. We at the time we used to busk a lot in Covent Garden, and then that was really nice because it was it was a time when you could actually have an hour, whereas now I think you only get tiny little chunks of time now because it's so sought after. But we used to make decent money, and as new coins came in, because there was a time when they kept bringing new coins in, like 20p's and things. People hated them, so they just give them to us. It's just marvelous. And so we used to and there was a kind of a freedom in that if you wanted some food and you didn't have any money, you'd go busking and then you'd get some food, or you wanted a new pair of shoes, or you saw something that you would like to have, you'd think, oh, I'd just go and play and then get it. It was quite fun. It was quite worrying as well, because sometimes, especially down in the tube, you would get some people who weren't all, mentally stable. And I had a guy who would practice his karate kicks at my head. He would never kick me, but it was worrying. Especially because I had my beautiful cello, that my lovely cello made in 1745, and
wow.
you think, I don't want that, to be destroyed. But if you can still play when there's a guy kicking at your head, then you're still going to be able to play.
Good for you. And then one day, I think Frankie Gavin spotted you as a member of the Dannan band, right? Yeah. Feel free to elaborate that encounter, and then how did it happen, and so forth. So.
Well, it was really funny because at the time I had a boyfriend who was a brilliant bass guitarist, and he and I had wanted to get I'd gone out to the library and I'd got a vinyl of Dannan, The Mist-Covered Mountain, because the cover was so beautiful. The covers were always Alec Finn, and he was good artist, a great eye. Anyway, so I got this vinyl album, and we just played it over and over and over until it was practically transparent. And the poor library kept asking for it back, and I never took it back and never took it back. Finally, in the end, they came in a van to the house to take it away. Anyway, so then I was busking this particular day in Covent Garden, and Alec Finn and Frankie Gavin were there. Of course, I didn't know what they looked like because I just got this album which didn't have any pictures of them on it. Anyway, so they came up afterwards and said, "Oh, we're going off on tour very soon for 3 weeks in Ireland. Would you like to join us?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. What's your band?" And they said, "Oh, you wouldn't know who it was." And I was in a bit of a hurry because I'd got a recording session to go to, and so I kept saying, "What's your band? Tell me what your band is." And they wouldn't tell me. And finally, in the end, I said, "If you don't tell me, I'm just going to go. So just tell me." And they said, "Dannan." And I said, "Oh, yes, I will." And so I turned up, and I'd never played anything like, their fast and furious brand of Irish music. They were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I had, I think it was about 20 minutes of rehearsal. And that was it for the whole tour. There was about 20 minutes rehearsal. And then that night, I fetched up in this heaving club with there's just not an inch of room anywhere, and trying my absolute best to it was like riding a bucking bronco and trying not to fall off,
Yeah, but you knew the music, so I don't know. Easy for me to say. But I don't know if it was difficult to follow along. You didn't know the track. You didn't know the music that much.
I didn't know. I mean, I'd heard their music a lot, and I tried sort of playing along with it, but all of their music was in a terribly hard key because they played with the box player Martin O'Connor, and it was all in sort of, instead of having A, D, G, C, then they tuned it up at a semitone so that to go with the box. So it was B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat. And so whenever I was playing, I was thinking, God, how do they do this? This is so hard. I just tuned the poor cello up to B flat. Oh my God, travesty. Anyway, but that's, yeah.
And then you were in a band with that band for how long? So what happened after the first tour in Ireland?
Well, at the end of the first tour, they asked me would I stay on, and so I stayed. And I just loved playing with them. We had a few differences, mainly about me not getting paid, but if they hadn't paid me, I'd still be with them now. Yeah, anyway, but because I absolutely love their music so much.
Good for you, man. Yeah, and look at where you are right now, playing with Loreena. That was probably the best thing that happened to you, I think, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was reading your website. I didn't know that you end up doing a recording with Siouxsie and the Banshees as well.
Oh yes, yeah, that was before Dannan.
Wow.
Yeah, so yeah, I toured with Siouxsie and the Banshees, and it was all that was also with Anne and Ginny of Humoresque, and so we'd go off
Yeah.
with the Banshees, and that was incredible. God, it was so loud. It was so loud.
Oh yeah.
And at that point, the there was just nothing really any good for amplifying the big hollow boxes, which is what a cello is, on stage when there's a huge amount of sound, and it just sounded like a kind of vaguely musical saw, a buzz saw or something. It was like it was terrible, and you couldn't hear tuning or anything like that. So it was some years before I could ever hear the cello on stage, because it was just, now I've got electric cellos and it's a joy, and of course with Loreena it's fantastic to play on stage with Loreena because now she has such great sound people, and the equipment is better and everything, so you can actually hear what you're playing a bit, well, a lot more than before. But I remember one time when the bass, when Steve Severin started, instead of starting on one note on the bass, he started on a different note. It was, and so then trying to hear where everybody was, and it was really hard. So that must have been kind of challenging for the audience, but they didn't seem to mind. It seemed to, I think there was so much energy, and Siouxsie was and Budgie, well, the whole lot of them were so incredible on stage. I mean, it was
absolutely
like energy of, oh my goodness, it was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, the crowd, the people that go to see Siouxsie and the Banshees, or used to see Siouxsie. Siouxsie is still touring nowadays, but they were different kind of people. So they were, very loud and good, a lot of energy, and people would go crazy.
Yeah. And it was great playing with somebody like that, who was really coming up with a whole new genre of music somehow. I mean, that was fabulous.
For you, in 1992, you end up, playing with Peter Gabriel in the album As, and you contribute to one of the best songs ever written, in my opinion, Washing of the Water, Secret World. Feel free to elaborate how you end up meeting Peter Gabriel and then, playing in his album and so forth.
Well, I think it was through Massive Attack, actually. Yes, I think it was. Yeah. So anyway, I turned up, and of course he's an absolute hero of mine.
Yeah.
I could hardly breathe. Normally I fly, but oh my goodness. And every time I see him, I just say the stupidest things. It's so embarrassing. I don't know. I'm just like a 14-year-old. Anyway, however, worse, much worse, a 6-year-old. And I remember once when we were playing one song, and he was singing, and I let go, and I let go, and I'm playing just him and me. And he turned around to me and he said, "Was that okay?" Yes, it was. Oh, and that's a real standout moment in my life. So when he, that just tiny moment. And he's one of the sweetest people. He's the one that will always go and get the tea and the biscuits and give it up, give them out to everybody. He's just a remarkably lovely person, as well as being as making some of my favorite music.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was lucky.
Oh, you're frozen. Oh dear. I don't know.
No, here.
Frozen?
No, you're good. Yeah, I was in
Hello?
I took a week off, 10 days off, and I was in Italy, and I saw the shows in Milan and Verona, and I'm seeing Peter Gabriel 3 times here in the fall. I'm going to be interviewing him in
Whoa.
sort of September, October. We need to figure out the dates. And
Oh, you
yeah,
lucky thing.
yeah. Genesis and Peter Gabriel is,
Oh,
he's one of my heroes. So I'm
yeah.
lucky that a friend of mine is helping me out with the interview, and we need to work out the details. So,
Oh,
so yeah, it's
and everything that he's done, his
absolutely, yeah.
yeah, his championing of music and musicians, and he's just remarkable.
Absolutely, yeah. Try to get the new band that he has, and the new
Yeah.
show is very, very good. It's 3 hours long, so try to
Wow.
catch it again. And the show is unbelievable. It's very,
Yeah.
very good.
Oh God.
And there's a couple of musicians that you would like. You would know what I'm talking about. I will send you the link. I
Yes.
create like a 10-minute video of my experience in Verona with some friends. I will send you a link so you can watch it.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
No problem. It's very, very good. And in '92, the same with Massive Attack, vocals and cello. Feel free to elaborate or have that
Oh,
opportunity together. And
that was funny how that came about, because I was singing when I was doing this sort of, the singing into one person's ear thing, and I sang a song that was written by Owen Hands, and I've sung it. I've just recorded it so many times. I could do a whole album of just different versions of this one song that I absolutely love. This song called My Donald, and Massive Attack called it Home of the Whale. And anyway, what happened was I'd sung onto a cassette recorder, just unaccompanied, that song, and I'd given it to a friend of mine, and she happened to work in some management company, or I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure where she worked, but anyway, somehow or other, it got into the hands of Massive Attack, and apparently they spent ages kind of chopping it up, trying to put beats behind it. But of course, I'd sung it free in the air, so it was not in time in any way at all. And so I'd already played with them the cello, and so they called me and said, "Would you come in for a session?" So I said, "Oh, absolutely." And I came in, and I thought it was for the cello, and then they said, "Oh, here's this, going to be singing this song," and I
wow.
Oh my God. And it was in totally the wrong key, because at that time I couldn't sing up there. It was way too high for me, because at the time I was singing really low. And anyway, I managed somehow to sing it. And there's a bit, it's one of my favorite bits in it, where I was playing the cello in the end bit of it, and I couldn't hear the drums, because the drums were very quiet, and so I shouted out whilst they were recording. I said, "I can't hear the drums." And what they did was so creative. They took that and they made that "can't hear the drums," and it was almost as if there was a sailor or somebody in the wind at the top of the mast whose voice was just carried away by the wind. It was just very beautiful the way, and you just said, "Play drums," and you can't hear the words at all, but you can hear that there's this voice. Really, really clever. Most people would have just chopped that and gone, "Oh, shut up," but they used it, and the creativity of that, of just taking that and making that really quite magical moment. Then, really amazing.
Good for you, man. Then a couple of years after that, Radiohead with the album The Bends, you played cello. Same question for how the opportunity came about, and so on and so forth.
Well, that was because I knew John Leckie, the fantastic producer who was producing it, and God, what people! I tell you, it's really funny, because in this bit of Cornwall where I live, there's just up the road, Tori Amos lives here as well, and and Tom York had a house just up the road from here as well. And I was out on the beach with a friend of mine, and I was walking along the beach, and there was this guy sort of with a child looking at something or other on the beach, and he sort of looked up, and I thought, oh my God, it's Tom York. And I said, hello. And he said, what an amazing memory. He said, oh, Caroline, he said, you played on one of our records. And I said, remembered. So I would never have thought. I mean, the billions of people that he must meet. So what a kind person to be able to do that. Anyway, however, so we chatted for a while, and this friend of mine didn't know who Radiohead was. She must have been possibly the only person in the whole world who didn't know who Radiohead was. And so as we were walking away, she said, who was that? And I said, I went into full on 14-year-old. I went, shh, that's Tom York from Radiohead. And she said, Tom who, darling? I went, shh, shh, shh. And I said, shh, Tom York from Radiohead. And she said, well, who's Radiohead? And I said, they're the biggest band in the whole world. And she said, oh, rubbish. She said, I'd know who they were if they were the biggest band in the world. And I said, oh.
That's a very good anecdote. Then Vangelis in the album Voices in 1995 again.
Oh.
Man, that guy was another dimension. You know, it's
he really was. You know what he has? He was like a well of. He could throw away better melodies than most people could touch in their whole life. He just never stopped with melody. When I turned up there, it was. I had such a lovely time with him. I really loved Vangelis. He had this whole, before any of this kind of thing was normal, he had this whole sort of keyboard setup that was just, bespoke for him. And he always played in the same key. And he, from what I could see, he would just hit some button or something and to change key and things. But he would just come up with this idea and then that idea and that. He was like a force of nature musically. It was just amazing to hear someone with that the bottomless well of musical ideas. Incredible. And he was such a sweetheart. It was lovely.
Yeah, he's so well known. So unfortunately, he passed away recently, right? No, a long time ago. And people like him or Hans Zimmer that compose music for soundtrack and film, they don't come around that often,
No, Vangelis was absolutely amazing and kind and funny. So brainy. Oh my God, he spoke so many languages. It was he was something else.
Oh, absolutely something else. Yeah, but then some years after that, Thomas Dolby in the album 14, 2001, you were playing cello and background vocal. That's another character, Thomas Dolby, man.
Oh, he's lovely. I met him through a friend of mine, Claire Kelly, brilliant bass player, who at this moment is out on tour with the Indigo Girls. Actually, there's a funny story with the Indigo Girls of how I met my friend Claire Kelly, because you probably won't know that in over in America, but there's a program called French and Saunders, which was a sort of comedy duo by two incredibly clever women who have gone on to do other things as well. One of which, Jennifer Saunders, is the one who wrote Absolutely Fabulous. Anyway, so at the time they had this show called